Okay, the purpose of this video is to teach you how to complete this assignment right here, the Denture Tablet Lab Graphing Assignment. And if you were absent for that activity, before trying to start this assignment, you should watch, click on the Denture Tablet Lab, and it summarizes what students did on day one and what students did on day two. On day two, students all completed the same assignment, and it was to test how water temperature, changing the water temperature affects how fast the Denture tablet reacts in the water. So this video brings you through a setup of the experiment, and that resulted in data being collected in a table that looks like this. So with this assignment, it is a Google Classroom assignment within Schoology. So when you click on it, the Google Classroom assignment will come up, and right up in this area where I have submissions, you will have a little tab that says My Document, and you can click on My Document. And when you click on that, right up in this neck of the woods, it's going to say Edit. And if you click Edit, it will open that document up in a new page, and it will look like this. It's going to be a copy of all of the data collected for each hour of this year's chemistry class experiment, in which we all did the same thing. So the tablet is, the Google Sheet is set up so that we have our 3 data. Along the bottom there, these tabs, we have our 4 data, our 5 data, and our 8 data. And I used color coding just to be able to separate out the data so that individual groups could get to their own data for the nature of this experiment. So, and then I also tallied everything within, I brought all of the hours together. So the purpose of this experiment is to teach you how to create a scatter plot using a Google Sheet. And Google Sheets always have data organized a certain way. When we want to make a graph with an x-axis and a y-axis, the independent variable, which is always the thing that we're manipulating in the experiment, in this case it was the temperature. Some of you were using warm water and cold water, and we were recording the temperature the whole time, and then measuring how long it took for that Denture tablet to dissolve. So the thing that we were manipulating was the temperature. That is always going to be an x-axis. Now, in a Google Sheet, when we want to make a graph, the first column, or the column on the left-hand side, is going to be what will end up in the x-axis. So this is what I want. We always want our independent variable on the x-axis, and we want our dependent variable on the y-axis. So in this case, again, the dependent variable is what depends on the thing that we're manipulating. In this case, we manipulated the temperature, and as a result, if changing the temperature was the cause, the effect was the dependent variable, and it was the amount of time it took for that reaction to take place. So the first thing that we're going to do is make a graph of your data. Now, if you only have 3 sets of data, like this group right here, I want you to combine data with another group so that you at least have 7 or 8. If you were absent on the day that this experiment was done, you can still do this assignment. I would just like you to choose a group from your hour, and it doesn't matter what group you choose. You can choose any group from your hour, but you should try to have at least 7 or 8 or 9 data points for this particular assignment. So again, if you were absent, you can choose a group. If you only have a few data points, then I want you to combine your data points with another group. So you can find your data by looking for your names in the hour. Now I made a pretend hour here called sample data, and I'm going to guide you step by step how to make a scatter plot using your data. And then after that, I'm going to show you step by step how to make a scatter plot for all of the data. So the first thing that we have to do is find our data. So the sample data is here. There I am in the first cell. And I'm going to highlight both columns. Again, I'll do that again. I will highlight both columns. Now, if you're watching this video as a tutorial, you may want to pause and highlight the columns and then move on to the next step, pausing periodically as you need to. Or I believe if you hit the back arrow button on your keyboard, it will bring you back like 10 seconds or something like that. So we've highlighted our data, and then you click on Insert Chart. And I am not sure where the chart is. Oh, there it is. Here is the chart. I'm going to make the chart just a little bit smaller so that it can be seen here. So you can see this happens to be a scatter plot. Now, if it's not a scatter plot, if for some reason it chose a line chart or a bar chart, when you insert the chart, you can choose column chart, or you can choose chart type, and we want to choose scatter plot for this example. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do is add a trend line. So to add a trend line, we choose Customize and click on Series. So choose Customize and click on Series. Within the series, we scroll down and click the little box that says Trend Line. The box that comes up immediately, or the trend line that comes up immediately, is linear. Now, sometimes a linear trend line is appropriate. When I'm looking at this, I see a bit of a curve, which makes me think that maybe an exponential trend line would be more appropriate. So if I click on the little arrow next to linear and choose exponential, I can see a better fit line. So in our case, what we want to do today is choose, I'll set you up Customize. We click Series, scroll down a little bit and choose Trend Line, and then choose Exponential. Okay, so we have our trend line in. The next thing that I want us to do is spread this graph out a little bit. Right now it has the data going to the very top of the graph and to the very edge. So I'm going to click on this vertical axis here. And another way that I could have gotten there was to choose Customize. And I could choose Customize and choose Vertical Axis. And what I want to do is I want to set a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 500. So what that does is it stretches the graph out a little bit for us and doesn't make that going off of the top. Now, if I look at the horizontal axis, the temperature, which is our independent variable again, I notice that it doesn't start at 0. So I'm going to, within the customize, choose horizontal axis. I'm going to have my minimum be 0. And I'd like to stretch this out a little bit beyond the last data point. So I will put my maximum at 50. Maybe I'll put my maximum at 60. Yeah, I like that one better. So I put my maximum at 60. Now I have this trend line kind of verging off the edge a little bit, and it allows me to use this graph to make predictions. So the next thing that I would like us to do is add some minor lines. So in customize, I'm just gonna make that go away. I choose grid lines and ticks and scroll down a little bit. Now I can either look at grid lines and ticks within the vertical axis or the horizontal axis. And I'm going to start with the vertical axis. For major spacing type, we want to choose count. And we'll use the automatic spacing. I think this does a nice job. It goes, everything is 100 seconds apart. But I want to put some minor grid lines in there. And since we're going from in 100-second increments, I want to put minor grid lines in there so that each minor grid line is worth 10. So for my minor space type, rather than click none, I'm going to choose 9. Now that seems a little bit kind of screwed up because I said that we want there to be 10, we want it to be divided up into 10 sections. But when we do that, what happens is those 9 lines in between our major grid lines divides that up into 10 different spaces. So for minor count, we're going to choose 9. Now in our on our horizontal axis within the grid lines and ticks, we'll choose count again. And I really wish that a 10 was showing up between this 20. So that if there was a 10 there, I would have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. There would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. So if I choose 7, that gives me the lines that I need. Our first line at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And our last line at 60. If you tested temperatures beyond 60, your graph might look a little bit different. This might be 70 or 80 for you, or maybe even 100. And if that's the case, you have to, if it doesn't automatically do this for you, I would like the temperature variations to be within increments of 10. You may have to just count how many lines you will need and put that for your major count. With our minor count, I would like us to divide this up into 10 increments again, which means that we will add 9 lines. So we just got done customizing grid lines and ticks. The title of a graph oftentimes in spreadsheet programs comes up for you. It should always indicate what's being graphed. In this case, it's time on the y-axis versus temperature on the x-axis. And since the computer program knows that temperature is on the x-axis and time is on the y-axis, it automatically put this title in there, which works pretty well in this case. We may want to elaborate on it a little bit though. And what I did is I double clicked for the reaction. I think that that's going to be getting too big, so we'll just leave it like this for now. So sorry about that. I would like to see my time be a little bit bigger. I would like this font to be bigger. So if you see within Customize, I can go to Chart Access and Titles, or I can just click on the different, here's the chart title. I clicked on it and chart title came up. If I click on the temperature axis here, the horizontal axis title comes up. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger and maybe be 16 and maybe bold it. If I click on the vertical one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bold it and choose 16 as my font. And with the title, I would like to do that as well. We can bold it and maybe make the font a little bit bigger. I'm not sure what it is. Let's try 18. No, it looks like it's bigger than 18. 24, that looks good. So now I have completed my graph. I have the tick marks the way I want them. I have it stretched out a little bit beyond my last data point, both vertically and also horizontally. I put my trend line in there. And the very last step that I want us to do for this assignment is to make this on its own sheet. So if I click on these three little dots here, I can click Move to Own Sheet, and that's what it did. It moved it to its own sheet, and it might come up as a chart 1 for you, but you should call this maybe Group Data Graph. Okay. So now it's a tab within this spreadsheet, which has lots of tabs. We have all of the hours. We have hour 3, we have hour 4, hour 5, hour 8, and now we have your data. So this is what I'm going to look for. Now, the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to make a graph for all student data. Now, there are two ways that you could do this. You could highlight the same way that we did. This group needs to change their data to seconds. I'm just going to leave that and let that group fix it. So what you can do is highlight both columns like this, like the C and the D, and then go to Insert, Chart. If scatter plot doesn't show up, we want to choose scatter plot or scatter chart. Within Customize, we want to stretch our chart out a little bit. I think that we can leave the 500 there. There's already some space, but I would like to bring this axis right here down to a maximum of a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 100. For my minor, or for my major tick marks, if we go to grids and tick lines, I would like these to be by tens. So if it is by tens and I have 100, that means I'm going to need 9 tick marks. That is not what I wanted to happen. Maybe I'll choose auto. You might have to play around with this a little bit to figure out what that should be. Maybe my horizontal axis should have a maximum of 110. Oh, that turned out nice. With a maximum of 110, it put these in increments of 10 for me. Now at this point, I have to add my trend line, so I'm following the same set of steps. I click on Series, Trend Line, and choose Exponential. I can actually click right on that trend line and make it bolder. That's not what I wanted to do. I just changed the point size. Can I make it thicker? Yes, I can. I can choose line thickness and make that trend line thicker. I can put in my miniature, my minor grid line marks. And a graph like this might look a little busy with it, but let's look under grid lines and ticks. We can, for our minor, we can choose 9, and that will break that up into 10 spaces. And I want to do the same for my vertical axis. For my minor, I can choose 9. And again, I would like you to make your labels more bold, maybe a little bit bigger. And then when you're done with this one, you can move it to its own sheet. And here we're going to call this class data. Okay, so your final assignment will have a group data graph. It will have a class data graph. And when you're done within this Google assignment in Schoology, you can go into this and you can hit submit. You can make changes to this assignment up until its due date, and I have this due Wednesday at midnight for this particular year that I am teaching this course. If I continue to use this video in future years, that due date may be different, and you will just have to look at your assignment details.